we've got sound. It is 10 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. The chair knows there's a quorum present, and we will do the flag salute, which is right behind you guys. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, 2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Pat, were you serious?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
I told you you'd have at least one.
I was on a meeting yesterday and was asked to have a discussion about Measure 114 and where the court and the sheriff's department stand on it. And I talked to the sheriff's department, I talked to the sheriff yesterday and have a quick discussion about what's going on from the EOCA side.
Okay, so under new business, we'll do 6.5 discussion on measure 114. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's move into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. If you signed in, if you dialed in on your phone, it is *6 to unmute yourself. Lower left-hand side of your screen if you're on your computer. Before I jump in, I will just remind folks that we are informal here. So as we work through the agenda, we also welcome comments and input, questions as we work through the agenda items. I know, Les, you had indicated you wanted to make a public comment. You want to go first?
Yes, Judge Campbell, give me just a moment here. I need to bring up my comment where I can read it here if I can do this. Okay. Can you see me all right?
Yep, we can see you. Yep.
Okay, good. And you can't hear me because I've had some problems with my audio on the computer. Are you able to hear me okay?
You are. Yep, coming through loud and clear.
Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and read the statement. I appreciate the opportunity. Judge Farrar, Campbell, Commissioners Wilkinson, Shannon, good morning. For the record, my name is Les Ruark. As you know, I live and work along Lower Rock Creek in the northwest portion of the county. I wish this morning to offer up the following comment with respect to the monthly reporting the county court receives from the administrator of the county's newly established public health program, who, as you know, is the administrator of the South Gilliam Health District. I believe there needs to be and should be a more all-inclusive dashboard approach to the administrator's reporting, detail that's provided in writing as well as verbally. The written report could and probably should take the form of the briefing paper format the court uses to support most all other agenda items coming before it, and ought to be submitted to the court in time for posting ahead of the court meeting at which it is verbally presented. The dashboard could easily enough include and depict a variety of useful and important to track statistical and fiscal information by program element, as well as a status listing of staff members' current assigned work tasks, even perhaps a monthly usage identification and accounting of the program's newly acquired vehicle. Additionally, the administrator should be asked to verbally present or summarize the written report in person whenever reasonably possible, versus making what's become a rather routine use of the court's virtual video connection to its meetings to simply verbally present what amounts to off-the-cuff reporting. Particularly in light of the irony with that, in that the health district itself refuses to make use of a video connection where it quite easily could. Its clinical operation, not to mention its own governing board's monthly and of late special and emergency meetings. Perhaps providing for this latter expectation, particularly of the administrator by the court, would actually serve to help motivate a change in the health district's discriminate and antiquated attitude when it comes to making use of electronic connectivity on its own front. One can hope anyways. thank you for the opportunity of placing this comment on the record, and I'm going to go ahead and email it to you so that Delaney and the rest of you have a copy of it. Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Les. Anybody else for public comment?
I have a comment too.
Go ahead,
It's,
Catherine.
I actually have something written down too, and so I can also email it to you. I also have, I see that Gilliam County Public Health is giving a verbal update today at today's meeting, and I have some questions about the outreach of that department. I've received multiple outreach materials from North Central Public Health and Wheeler County Public Health departments regarding their services, but none from our own county. I was told that I needed to attend the South Gilliam County Health District meetings to ask questions, which I have done in November and December. I was told at those meetings that there will be no vaccination clinics, and if I needed public health information, I am to, quote, call the clinic, unquote. I was also told that COVID vaccinations are available at Murray's, but not at the Public Health Department. I am more than capable of finding what I need, and thankfully I do have insurance that I do not have to worry about where I need to get free vaccinations and COVID or flu tests. My concern is for the people that do not have insurance or the ability to connect to these services. My comment to the Gilliam County Court is, what is your role to make sure that public health programs and services are delivered to the residents? The county is ultimately responsible for the success of public health, and I want to know what oversight Gilliam County Court has to assure there is going to be outreach to our residents. And I have had a few discussions of talking about possibly we could form a committee similar to what North Central Public Health had, which I was a member of North Central Public Health board for 2 years, that we could have people from throughout the county to assist with making sure that the services, and that we see that North Central, we see that Gilliam County Public Health is a success. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Anybody else for public comments? Let's start with Zoom, and then I think Judd had stuff here. Anything else on the Zoom? Judd, go ahead.
Yeah, the Port of Arlington is undertaking now a strategic business plan update. Much of that effort will be at our regular port meetings. We did contract with the local consulting firm, Fairwinds Consulting, LLC, Corey Michael, and happy to have local interest and expertise to help do that plan. I do have a conversation starter, shall I call it, that I'll give to mainly to our board members.
Thank you.
But we recognize that the county is a key partner in our plan, and we welcome public input from all that are interested in helping us to be successful, because it takes a team to make it happen. So thank you so much.
So is the best way for folks to engage to go to your meetings? Are there going to be surveys? How if folks want to engage with your planning process, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, Corey is setting up some interviews with stakeholders, as well as some surveys, I think, that will be available for all to participate in. And the other way would be to contact those board members directly and to attend our meetings. You're welcome to attend our meetings as well. You know, there may be some other public outreach efforts that Corey will put forward in addition to our regular port meetings. So
Great.
welcome your input and feedback.
If you have surveys or links that you want us to help share on our websites or things, just let us know. We're happy to help be a partner and share in our
Thank you.
channels too.
When are your meetings?
We meet on the second Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. We meet in Port of Arlington office 9 months out of the year, and 3 months out of the year are in Condon at City of Condon. I can't remember the months, but The winter months are down here.
Understand.
Is that available on your website, the exact meeting dates and the?
Yeah, we post the agendas on our website, that Friday before a Thursday meeting, they'll be posted on the website. And we'll probably have a special tab for our strategic plan that people can track and follow as we proceed.
That's great. Any other comments at this point? Chris, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to report that I do have Kayla Grubaugh, who is a clerk at the Gilliam County Justice Court, interested in attending the National Judicial College. And what the law is on pro tem education for justice courts is either the judge needs to be law trained or they need to have attended the National Judicial College, which has been something I've dealt with throughout my term and since the time this law went into effect, which limits my pool of pro tems. So she's potentially interested in attending. She has to work out some logistics with her child and her childcare, but it is June 5th through the 15th. Shandy Johnson, who is the new Justice of the Peace in Sherman County, is also attending. And there is partial scholarships available through the National Judicial College. I went to it long ago. Every sitting JP has gone. It's great education. And I just wanted to let you know that that's in the works to try to get potential transition plan in place for when I leave and also have some relief while I'm here to potentially take some traffic cases because I'm it. So I just want to let you know that that's something I'm working on.
Good for her for raising her
Yeah.
hand. That's great. Any other comments at this point? All right, let's move into the consent agenda. Any questions about it?
Do you have any questions, Mr. Shannon?
Absolutely. On the minutes, I noticed this later, I would have flagged it earlier. From the last meeting,
The regular minutes?
regular minutes.
Okay,
In the matter to discuss request from Pioneer Community Development, there was a line in there that said Commissioner Shannon noted that he had reviewed a rescinded amendment. I had not reviewed an rescinded amendment for substance. I had reviewed an item briefing for the meeting that had a comment in it about the amendment being rescinded. That is in the bottom of the third page in the last two lines.
okay, let's see. So do we want to, what do you think, Commissioner, about just pulling this one out of the consent agenda, having staff fix it and bring it back? Does that work? Okay, so we will pull the December 7th, 2022 regular meeting minutes off the consent agenda. Have staff, was there anything else you saw on that one?
The other, just a question I'd like to know, what, I've never, or don't remember ever seeing the lease for Hood River Sand and Gravel. What do we get for that lease? It's not in the amendment, obviously, and
Let me pull that
the
up.
original lease wasn't attached to the package.
We're gonna fix that.
Delaney's going to pull that up. So in the meantime, for folks who are watching at home, we are going to pull 4.1, which is the December 7th regular meeting minutes, out of the consent agenda. We will, what's that?
I just edited the.
We'll reapprove them at the next meeting, just.
And we'll pull them back. Delaney's going to look and see what we're getting for the batch plant. think we've amended it so many times that we have to go back. a couple
Yeah.
of-
It's been amended a number of
I'm
times.
pretty sure we passed it maybe in the first year we were in office. So.
It is $750 per month. Rent shall be paid in advance on the 5th day of each month. In addition, leasee shall pay to the lessor the sum of $5 for each cubic yard of concrete produced using the batch plant.
And it hasn't been in use, has it?
I think as of late, it might have been.
Yeah, I don't know if they're making
actually.
concrete, but I think they will store gravel there or
Yeah.
things like
There's
that.
been people around there, but I don't know that they're making concrete.
So how do we track
It's a good face,
good faith?
yeah.
Okay,
Any other questions?
not at this time.
Okay, do I have a motion on the amended consent agenda?
I move to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as amended, which consists of consider approval of December 7th, 2022 executive session minutes, consider approval of November 22nd, 2022 work session minutes, consider approval of Amendment 1 to Montague Solar Project Road Use Agreement, consider approval of 2023 Gilliam County Justice Court Pro Tem judges, consider approval of commercial lease renewal agreement with Hood River Sand and Gravel, and consider approval of Amendment number 3 to memorandum of agreement for attainable housing incentive programs. Again, the December 7th regular meeting minutes are held over until the next meeting. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go into unfinished business. 5.1 is consider approval of resolution number R 2022-18, a resolution requesting a boundary change for economic development districts. So this is the very first step in moving Gilliam County from GEODC over to McKed for our economic development district. We've been talking about it really for years at this point. I think Judge Schaefer started the conversation, and I think we have finally reached a consensus about moving forward with McKed's board, and I think hopefully with GEODC board as well. Just to put on the record that sort of the impetus for this is really to better align our economic development partnerships with where a lot of our other regional partnerships already are. So where our transportation, workforce development, all of those things, we tend to partner with the Gorge counties and not with the eastern counties. And then the other significant change would be that the governor's regional solutions teams, their regions, are based on economic development districts. And so technically right now, our person, who is Courtney, who is fabulous, but has all of Eastern Oregon and is based in Baker County, while Nate Stice, who has Central, is based in the Dalles. And so by changing this, assuming that the new governor retains regional solutions, which I hope that she does, because that has been very useful to us to have a governor's person who is close and understands what we're working on. That would allow us to basically switch over into the North Central region, and hopefully if Nate continues to be in his position or they hired someone out of the Gorge, would be much closer to Gilliam
did
County.
Nate stay in that position or did he go into the governor's office?
He is now the director of regional solutions, but he
Still kept the,
and he still lives in the Dalles. He's just,
I know, I saw him at Spookies the other day.
yeah. And he was yesterday driving around with Judge DeBolskus looking at projects. So, my hope is that Governor-elect Kotek will continue that, and that Nate will consider sticking around. But this would allow us probably to better align with that as well. So there's plenty of benefit, I think. What is before you is a draft resolution. So basically what this process looks like is the court formally would need to approve this. Then both the GEODC board and the McKed board would both need to vote to change the boundary. So GEODC to release us, McKed to accept us. both governors, so Governor-elect Kotek, Governor Inslee of Washington would both have to sign off because McKed is a bi-state economic development district. And then that will all be packaged up and sent to Economic Development Administration in Washington, DC, who actually makes the boundary change.
So 4 more years.
So realistically,
No, closer than that.
hopefully this time next year, we would be officially McKed members.
We
And
just need to stay on top of it and make sure that people remember that it's
I
been
think
sent.
the McKed
and-
board is gonna vote in the February
Are
meeting.
they?
yes, I
The
believe
dad
so.
is going to vote, but we still need to get GODC to let us go.
And my understanding is there's already been outreach to the governors. Obviously,
Okay.
there's a new governor coming in, so I'm not sure if Kotek has been,
Inslee's
But
office had
Inslee's.
said that they didn't see a problem with it. And then the checklist or whatever that Liz had sent in that McKed sent to EDA, said they don't see any problems with it.
Okay.
And the city of Arlington has no problems with it,
great.
so. I think we're moving forward pretty rapidly, actually, for as long as it's been.
Well, once you get the ball rolling, maybe it'll.
And
Really good
I
work.
went to the board meeting was on the board meeting last week, and the umbrella that they cover for stuff is just amazing. They just.
Good organization.
Unbelievable.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think it will be a good thing. Honestly, I think it will even be a good thing for GEODC. They have a very dispersed, very wide region, I think, which makes it really challenging. A lot of different interests, a lot of heavily timber counties, and then they have our county, and it's,
It don't really fit.
yeah, we don't fit as nicely as I think we do with the gorge counties and a lot of the shared, our wind, our even like with Klickitat County, we're very similar with our
Right.
waste, all those
Right.
kinds of things are very similar economic models. So the resolution that is before you, I did the initial draft. Jessica Mehta, who is the executive director at McKed, took a look just to make sure that she felt comfortable with it. We did do a preliminary run it by her contacts at EDA to make sure we were on the right track and capturing all the things that they would look for when they look at the application. And as Commissioner Shannon indicated, everyone so far is saying yes, 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 that looks good. So questions about that?
My question is.
Judge Campbell,
Go ahead, Les. Are you there?
may I just hop in here? I want to say a bit of praise. I'd like to say a bit of praise for you as the judge and Pat as the commissioner and Sherry too, for working as hard as you have to get this to where it is now. It's and on the verge of being approved. This was something that was being tossed around. He came on board as a county commissioner 4 years ago now. And it's way past due, and it's very much needed. And I really see it as being able to help the port and the court and the two cities immensely. So I just want to say thank you for the good work here.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Les.
Les.
All right, are we ready for a motion?
Yes, I move to approve resolution number R 2022-18 as presented.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution number R 2022-18 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we will get that sent over to both McKed and GODC, and then I'll keep you posted as their boards are meeting. Both, by the way, have public boards. So if folks are interested in watching this process beyond us, you're welcome to attend those as well. Okay, let's go into 5.2, select outdoor library landscape design plan. Okay, so go back. I'll just bring this up here. I think I've got, as a reminder, we are discussing the lot that is currently behind the Gilliam County Library in Condon, which used to have the old Holland and Sons building that we have demolished. And looking at redeveloping it into partially an electric vehicle charging area, and then extending the green space for the library. Basically what I have called an outdoor.
On the smart board.
That would be great, actually, if you can share the, Delaney will put them up here. Perfect. So we partnered with a landscape design student from the University of Oregon, working on her master's, actually, to come up with some concepts for us to look at. These are just the green spaces. The overall engineering for the electric vehicle, we're going to need to bring in an engineer that specializes in that, and as well as the sidewalks, and that's a separate thing. So this is just for the green spots of the project. And so what I did since our last meeting was, originally Jenna, who is the student, had given us 4 drawings. 2 of the drawings did not have EV charging stations. And so I made the executive decision to toss those out, since the court had decided that that was a priority to have the EV charging. And so we shared concept 3 and concept 4. I sent out an email to all of the county staff, all of our partners, as many local partners as I could think of that may have some input, and just asked for them to give us input back on which concept they preferred. The library board as well looked at them, was given an opportunity to provide us feedback. Basically, the feedback is split 50-50. Half liked concept 3 best, half liked concept 4 best. It seems from the feedback is that people liked different elements of each, and that if there was some way to combine some of them, it's like, for instance, one of the things that came up regularly for folks who chose concept 3 was that there's a big tree in that one. And they liked that because it gets hot back there, and eventually thought they may need some shade to actually do that. Other folks really liked the tunnel piece, liked that area. The feedback on number 4 that people liked was they liked in particular the tea party room idea. So there's kind of a back and forth between both. Let me see, Mary also sent me some more feedback from the.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be some shade, whether it's a tree or some pergola type structures, or, yeah, that'll be an important piece of the puzzle, not only just for shade, but also rain. And
Is that the solar
I
seating
like
for
the solar
number
trees.
3 has the covered
I like the
area,
solar
right?
tree.
Yeah, so the solar seating, the idea was, and there's some in the packet, there was sort of some examples of this, but they're basically like shaded picnic areas where it's a solar sort of thing on top.
It's a solar tree looking
Yeah.
thing. or-
And people can sit underneath them to eat lunch and read and do that kind of stuff, and sort of connect it in with the EV charging stuff. So the feedback from the board, which Mary provided, is what's important to board and staff members: safety for our patrons, parking for staff members. They're asking that we save some spots for staff and one for the trailer that they use for the book sale. A usable safe sidewalk that you can use a wheelchair, motorized scooter, hand truck, etc., which is definitely part of the larger project plan. That's actually what started this whole thing. Sherry
Right.
remembers way back when.
Right, the sidewalk.
More usable green space, which I think both would provide. Low maintenance of landscape. Ideas that they liked from the drawings, all of the parking, the EV stations, the group program area. They like, I think, the group program area, but want it to be front and center. So would like it to be moved up. I think they're talking about using the back of the library to do like movies and things like that. And so they wanted the group area to be sort of more centered to and closer to the back of the library. They like the large central tree for shade, the solar seating. They like the solar charging tables. None of the members like the solar floral shades or the E-tree shades. They liked a place for adults to read and a place for the children to play while they are charging their cars. Mary herself liked the tunnel, and they liked the tea party area. So Court.
So they're gonna redesign this?
So Jenna is really just waiting for direction from us to be able to actually do the detailed CAD drawings and designs. And so what it is sounding like is that, one, I will just say, to put this in context, it sounds like people are excited about the idea of this being redeveloped, and that actually there are things in both of these concepts that people are drawn to. So what I am looking for from you two is some direction on if you have a preferred concept, or if you would like me, even if we took a preferred concept and then maybe I worked with Jenna to see if we could incorporate, say we took 4, but tried to work in a tree, for instance, or something like that. So I just need some direction on, so I can direct Jenna on finishing up the drawings. And then again, we'll be coming back multiple times because then we have to look at the larger project and how we're going to do the EV charging and actually getting it procured. And so this is just phase 1.
So based on everything you just went through, do you think 4 fits that the closest, the easiest to adjust?
I do. The tea party room consistently was a favorite. And so I think I think the things that people liked from 3 were the tree and the tunnel.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I could maybe go back to Jenna and suggest if we look at maybe putting a centralized tree around that group program area, and then maybe seeing, maybe even at the nature play area, if there's a way to incorporate the tunnel into that nature play area. That then I think maybe we would actually have the best of both worlds, because the group program area then would be central and facing the library rather than on the side, which on number 3, it's actually on the side.
Yeah, I think you could go back to Jenna with all these suggestions and what the library board is seeing and what we're seeing, and have her comprise one to come back with.
I think I saw, Mary, are you on here? I see her.
EV charging.
Yes, I
area.
am.
On the EV charging area, they're talking about taking part of that EV charging for the trailer storage and the employee parking. I mean, I think 4 charging stations is probably plenty.
Yeah, and Jeff may adjust how many can actually fit in there. So that'll be part of.
One thing while we're on that is just FYI, when I was on the McKed meeting the other day, the Grass Valley Market just received a grant for $200,000 for an EV charging station at the store in Grass Valley, and it looked like it. I didn't get all of it. It came through Pacific Power, I believe. So I'm wondering if the PUCs and utilities don't have some
Funds available.
for that.
You would think so.
Okay, so hold that, put a pin in that for a minute. So Delaney may have some updates on the potential funding. Before we get off of that, though, I want to ask Mary, based on what your board's discussion was, if we went with, say, concept 4, but added in a central tree and possibly a tunnel, do you think that would meet sort of the board's, what the board discussed as their preferred sort of elements?
Yes.
Okay. Court, does that,
Suits me.
Yeah,
okay,
whatever makes them happy.
great. I will go back to Jenna and I will ask her to incorporate those things. I'm really excited actually about this project. I
gonna be
think it's gonna
nice.
be really neat.
Yeah.
On the funding issue, both Miranda and Delaney, since our last discussion of this, have been looking for sources anywhere we can find them of funding. We think that there may be, a transportation,
Mhm.
do you want to talk just briefly about that?
Yeah,
Those things we need to, Miranda.
yeah, there's a transportation. I attended a grant training for Shania while she was out on vacation. And I think it's their SMART grants that they offer through the transportation department that specifically talks about crossover projects for libraries and things like that they were looking to support. So there's some funding there that might not be for the EV charging, but it could also cover some of the other aspects of the project. So at least
Great.
there's funding for that half that I know of. And I think Miranda has some ideas on the EV charging funding.
You know, Miranda and Mayor Buffton and I were on a call the other day with USDA grants, and it did not sound very feasible what they have available currently, because they were tied to, you had to prove you didn't have the funding, and then you had to prove you got denied by the bank before they even look at it.
Oh, gosh.
Hmm.
gee. Not very forthcoming. are they?
No,
Depending on, we may be able, because in this design, there's also sculpture, as you notice, so we may be able to go after some public art grants. So I think what we're going to be looking at is some multiple, maybe sources from different places that we wouldn't normally be going to look, that we may be able to cobble together enough funding sources. I am assuming there will still be some county investment, but our hope is, both Miranda and Delaney have been, every time there's even a mention of EV or libraries or parks, they're getting cards and following up and asking if this could fund it. So
Justin Long from Waterbury called me the day before yesterday, and he's looking at Hunkin property in downtown Arlington to put in EV charger
Oh,
and
that's a
green
good spot.
space, and
Yeah.
possibly some food truck parking type stuff down there.
cool.
Good deal.
One of those things we attended down there at AOC, I think Miranda was the one, we went to that one and they said right on it, EV stations.
Yeah, that's the one that we ended up contacting, and they said that you have
Hard to get money.
prove that you can't afford. And you have to have a denial letter from the bank before they
Oh,
even look
okay.
into you.
Wow.
Well, they
That's
touted
crazy.
it really nicely though,
Yeah.
didn't
They
they?
made it sound
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
huh?
yeah, money for this.
I told him it sounded like they didn't want to give him money.
Didn't sound like it, no,
That's
gosh. It would
probably
be
true.
destitute.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. We will at least finalize drawings for the landscape piece. We're going to continue to sort of beat the bushes for funding. I still am going to have Jeff rework his proposal to come back and look at the larger project, because we need to look at sidewalks as well as the actual parking spaces. Yeah, and I think we will also probably be looping in Columbia Basin just to see if there's some funding out there that maybe they have access to and could maybe be a partner with
Yeah,
us.
that'd
And
be great.
so more to come, but at least this piece, hopefully we can get finalized and start building some momentum from.
Make some
from
kind of
this.
decision so we can keep going forward.
Perfect. Okay, let's move into 5.3, which is the Gilliam County Public Health Update. I see Holly on there. Holly, you want to take it away? Hopefully she didn't step away. Oh, there she
Can you
goes.
guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so what I have for you is just that we are 6 months into creating a brand new Gilliam County Public Health Department. We're continuing to set up programs. There are a lot of components involved in setting up a brand new public health department, and we are striving to be successful and do the best that we can. We are continue to train the employees and figure out what staff is going to be needed. The first year is a building and planning year while providing the best public health health services that we can. We are continuing working directly with the state, who does periodic evaluations of our performance. And at the last one, the only thing that really came up was that they are pushing for the county to get the sub-recipient risk assessment and monitoring plan done, which I know you're going to be having a transition of commissioners here. So we're hoping to be able to maybe connect with Delaney and Leah to set up a meeting in January to get that risk assessment completed and a monitoring plan in place. Are there any questions about any of that stuff for me?
No, that piece, and Leah was nodding her head yes, so.
Okay, I'll shoot you an email, you and Delaney. And then I think Dalene's got some updates on some of the specific programs. Hi there.
Daleen.
This is Dean Wilson. Yeah, so Polly said we had a meeting recently on December 8th with OHA, and that involved pretty much a representative from each different program, and it was an opportunity for us to ask questions if we had them, and give the state feedback on what we might need from them. But it was also an opportunity for the state to give us feedback on how we were doing and provide us with any suggestions on work that we should be doing and focusing on. And that is our second meeting, overall meeting that we've had with everybody. And I do feel like those are helpful and productive. But we haven't, there hasn't been anything major from the state that has come to us saying that, we're missing some big obvious pieces in what we're providing and what we're doing. So they're, what it feels like, giving us a big pat on the back and said, you're doing better than what we kind of expect and beyond where we expect you to be. So I think that's a good report. Right now, some of the highlights that we're working on, I've been working with our health officer, Dr. Edwards, pretty closely with the tobacco program and putting in place kind of a procedure on how we're going to be providing nicotine replacement therapy to our communities and what that looks like. So that's, working on licenses and things like that to do. We have another immunization clinic coming up in Arlington in mid-January that's going to help us hit all the school age kids again before that school, the school exclusion deadline comes up in February. So that gives families and kids a second opportunity to get their immunizations completed before that exclusion date comes up. And I think the other thing that's kind of been heavy on everybody's mind in this community, of course, is the whole respiratory outbreak, with all the sickness that's going around. And we've had some questions from the schools and from the daycare that we've been able to talk with our health officer with. And talk with the state as well very closely on how we're providing direction to those places and what we should be doing or how we help them. And I think that's my summary. If you have any questions.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
So based on the public comment concerns around the COVID vaccinations and whatnot, why is it that's a concern?
This Holly again, I can't state to why that's a concern of those two individual people, but with regard to the COVID vaccinations, we consult with our clinic here in Condon and the clinic in Arlington on a regular basis. There is no demand, according to both clinics, for COVID vaccinations. And then we've also been in touch with Murray's because they had ordered, I believe it was over 600 doses, and they're a private business, and they, I mean, they rely on, you know, business. I mean, it's a business, and we do not want to compete with them in any way. And so those are the reasons that we feel like the community is covered for COVID vaccinations.
But is it, I understand that piece if there isn't demand. If somebody though doesn't have insurance and wants a COVID vaccine, are they able to go to the clinic and get it through public health free of charge? Or would they, because I get not competing, but part of public health is meant to provide vaccinations with the idea that we don't want cost to be a barrier to vaccinate the community. So is that an option for folks? And we just need to make sure that folks are aware that that's an option? Or how does that work?
So if someone comes to our clinic, just like for any kind of service, and they don't have insurance, which is very rare, most of our community is covered. And because of the Oregon Health Plan guidelines, there are very, very few people that do not have insurance. If they were to call us and ask us, we would make arrangements for them. We do not carry vaccine here because it expires quickly. And when you open a vial, you have to use it within a certain period of time. And that's why when there's not that kind of demand, that it does not make any sense to carry it here. And then Murray's, with their resources, with having several different pharmacies, they are able to probably move that vaccine around to where it can be used and where there's a demand for it. But absolutely, if anyone ever called here and said they couldn't afford it and needed something, we would make arrangements for that.
Yeah, I just, from the optics of complaining about North Central and their vaccination issues early on in the COVID, that it would concern me that we get bad publicity because we don't have good coverage through our own local health now that we've moved it here.
Other questions or comments from the commissioners? Any members of the public who have questions about what public health is working on? Now would be a great time to ask them if you're curious about services, how to access them, what they're working on. I see Catherine. Go ahead, Catherine.
I just want to make sure that just because they don't know how many customers they have that aren't insured, that we take care of our residents, because there's a lot that aren't insured and maybe they don't go to the clinic. But I just think as a public health, we just need to make sure, you know, and I guess I'm not pointing this at the clinic. I guess I'm going to point this at the county court. You guys are ultimately responsible for public health. And I want to know what you guys are going to do to make sure that everyone gets the services that they're going to get. And I want to make sure that there's outreach to people. And I understand that this is a 6-month program. I get that. But we need to get on top of this to make sure that the county is successful with this. And as a member of the past Public Health Board, I am all for public health being in Gilliam County. But I wanted to make sure that everyone can access it without having to do a lot of research on how. So I just appreciate, I want to hear what the county court plans on doing with this program, not necessarily who they've contracted with. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. And there was also a question on the meeting chat that I want to put out and pose to Holly and Daleen. The question comes from Jessica Isley. How are they communicating what they're offering to the community? They have free COVID test kits, but they haven't promoted that. No posters, social media posts, advertising in the paper, etc. Maybe Holly or Dalen, can you speak to what your outreach plans look like? And I think that is definitely an area where the county has some channels that we could, support, exactly.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I just want to reiterate the fact that we are very new and we have to focus on the very basics of getting public health up and running. And yes, we want to communicate clearly with the public, but we also have other very big pieces to focus on too. So in communication and getting the information out to the public, we put a lot of time and effort into our website. And we have put advertisements for different things in the Times Journal to make sure it gets out to as many people as possible. As far as test kits go, we have not made that broadly obvious to the public because we do have limited quantities of tests here that expire soon, and the state does not have backup tests to provide to us at this time, nor do they have information quite yet on if those test expiration dates are going to be extended yet. And so we want to make sure that we have stock available to those who need it when they call, who are sick, if there's an outbreak, which means helping the Arlington clinic, helping the Arlington schools, helping the Condon schools and daycares. So no, we have not made that information widely obvious because we have limited amounts at this time.
I have a concern about the communication. Did I not hear more than just the Times Journal? Because I don't think our readership is widespread as we might hope it is. Would there be flyers and posters and that sort of thing to reach the people that do not subscribe?
We have sent flyers, so specifically like the immunization clinic coming up in Arlington, and which we did last time too. We have sent flyers to the clinic itself for them to disperse to their clientele, and we also sent it to the schools, and the schools sent it home with all of their students before break so that families had all of that information, as well as in the Times Journal.
Thank you.
And then there's one more question in the chat, which is there or when is the vaccine clinic in Condon? You have one in Arlington. Can you just go over maybe the dates of that? And is there one scheduled in Condon, or did you already do one?
We do not have a vaccination clinic scheduled in Condon because the Condon clinic provides vaccinations for children. The reason why we have one in Arlington is because their clinic does not provide vaccinations to children.
Other questions? Anything else? Looking around.
Is that a local health concern that the Arlington Clinic doesn't offer those, or is that strictly with the North End Health District decision that they make?
Holly, do you know?
I didn't
you know-
understand what Pat was saying, if that was directed towards us. Can you repeat that, please?
I think that maybe the question is there, can you maybe give us a little bit more background on why the Arlington Clinic doesn't offer vaccines or hasn't historically, but the Condon one does? Do you know that history, or sort of how that, why the difference basically?
So I would recommend that you ask them directly that question, but from the past administrator meetings that I've had, is that is a business decision that is made by their clinic and health district. And I believe it was due to lack of demand for them. That is what they had said previously, but I don't want to speak for them.
And for the, just to clarify, the vaccines that the clinic in Conan provides, are those provided free of charge if folks are coming in under, say, a public health request?
Yes, they are, and you can schedule an appointment during business hours at any time in Condon.
Got it, great.
So I guess I'm sitting here wondering, is it up to the county court members to ask those questions, or does their local health authority ask those questions of the clinics and the? You understand what, I mean, is that something we have to physically go out and meet with Carrie down there and say, why are you doing this? Or is that something that we can ask of our contracted local health?
I mean, I think we can do either.
I mean,
What do you prefer?
well, I'm out of that loop, so I'm just asking because I'm not really. But going forward, I mean, to speak to Catherine's questions, what are we gonna do to make sure this stuff happens? So what is it we are gonna do? And is that gonna be up to the commissioner in charge of that, or, you know, what do we do? I'm just curious. It won't be under my umbrella, so.
Good luck.
I think that'll be part of the discussion when we have the meeting in January.
And then we can bring an update back to the court after we have our meeting with public health to give everyone a better overview of what will look like going forward.
Mhm. And I would like, I think maybe as part of your meeting, if you guys can maybe explore if there are things that the county on our side can be doing to better get the information out to folks. I know, you know, especially for Daleen, that there may be a capacity issue trying to meet OHA's expectations and provide service and communicate what those services are. And so I think, you know, that is, to Catherine's point, I mean, this is still a Gilliam County program. And so I think we need to be more active in partnership on getting information out and using the channels that we have and the resources that we have. When we
'cause
can.
Speaking back to the communication, if I'm a young mother who doesn't have school-age children and I don't go to the Arlington Clinic and I don't get the Chimes Journal, how do I get that communication? And so I wonder if the court can finance a flyer that goes out in the mail that would be more broad spread to capture some of those people as well.
Mhm.
Can I speak up real quick? Daleen again.
Yeah, go ahead, Daleen.
We have also, just to get the information out there, have referral forms that we have sent to providers within our vicinity that has the public health information. So if they have mothers or children that have been born, so through the hospitals and through the clinics, they have Gilliam County Public Health's information now, so they can access the form if they're in need of immunization services, WIC services, whatever it might be. We have a list that they can check off. They provide the patient's name if they're interested. They send it to us, and then we can outreach to those families as well. So that's another avenue that we've put in place to help with that communication.
Okay, thank you.
That whole packet that they send home with you when you're
Yeah, right.
delirious after giving birth, that I remember. Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Holly and Daleen. Until next time. Okay, let's move on to new business, which is 6.1, presentation of new project from Ardent Mills. Man, hello.
So I believe Scott's on. He is going to.
I
go
see
through
him
the
on there.
presentation.
All right, let me set up real quick. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I gave him screen sharing access.
I'm sorry, the computer just got me locked out for presenting real quick. So let me see if I have the capabilities. And I don't. So my computer, I guess, has some really good security. So if do you guys have the PDF file available?
I can screen share for you, Scott, if you would like, and you can just tell me when to move to the next slide.
Yeah, that'll be good. Sorry about that. Perfect. Well, first, good morning. My name is Scott Dillingham, and you, of course, have Dan Lawrence available with you. I'd like to thank the Corps for letting us present our new project that we're working on at Arlington. And then we'll go to the second page.
One more, please.
There we go.
Okay. I thought for a second it was my computer screen, but so and this, I just wanted to share, this is kind of our slide where we share our vision and our values. And a couple of the values that we're gonna focus on today is really about simplicity and how do we allow to remove barriers and make it easier for our employees to do what they do best, and then also improving our food safety within our products at the Arlington facility. We'll go to the next slide. Now the project that we're proposing, that we're working on, is super simple. We're really not adding a lot of changes to the process. We're just trying to add a little bit of automation and then allow us to do different size products and then improve the food safety. So currently Arlington can only produce 55 or 50-pound bags efficiently and serve the customers here primarily in the Northwest. The goals of the project is to add bulk trailer capabilities, which would be 50,000-pound trailers, and then 1,800-pound super shack capabilities. The food safety that I mentioned before, this will allow all the products to run through a sifter, a magnet, and a metal detector prior to going to either the 50-pound bag, the bulk trailer, or into the super shack. And then our plan is to have this operational by March of 2023. I see I put 2022 on the slide, but we weren't able to get it done that far, that in the past. But and then just new equipment wise, just to walk through how simple it is, we're really just adding an airlock, or 2 airlocks, 2 blower packages that'll allow us to blow from the mixer through the sifter, where currently right now we have to manually move a tote from one place to the next, and then adding product lines so that we can blow into the back of a trailer. So that's really the equipment that we're adding, and which would cause us to put an opening into the side of the building to put a 4 to 6 inch product line through the side of the building. And I'll show you that on the next slide. And then also adding a bulk truck loadout area so that we can easily pull a trailer up and then blow into the back of it. If I go to the next slide, I have some pictures. So off to the left there is really just an overall layout of the facility and currently how it stands. The trailer on the left is that rectangle, the bottom left. That's where we're proposing to put a trailer loadout. That one is going to be a very simple, just a product line coming out, and then we blow into the back of a back trailer that already has a filter to minimize any dust, and any dust that could happen to blow out. In the back left, there's that little circle. We're proposing, we haven't found a bin, but we're proposing to add a 50,000 pound bin that we could preload and then decrease the loading time into the trailer. And then in the center, there's you can see some stairways and a mixer. Let's see, I can't move it, but it's right in the center of the building there. We're looking at installing a man door just to go back and forth in between the two rooms.
I can point it out.
You can, yeah.
I don't know if I can.
It's right.
Nan will point it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I should thank Jeff Schott for coming out and walking through the facility with Nan and allowing Nan to kind of walk through the project with him. I will say if we're unable to get that trailer on the side, the other proposal is to move the trailer on that far right side where we already have some concrete. That loadout station could look similar to the picture on the top right. This is a loadout station at one of our other facilities in Texas.
So to put the loadout over on this side, we would have to have that whole area there built up because it kind of slopes pretty bad. And then if the truck comes in off of the main road, he would have to be able to turn around and come right up to the building. So that would all have to be built up in that area. So it's pretty simple. All we, just Jeff, I don't know if Jeff's on.
I think he just signed on. He just
Okay.
that's what I was texting. I was texting him to say, where are you? Get on here. But I think he is on.
I'm on. I made it.
So we were just being walked through the proposed changes to the building. Understand that you watched through and looked at it with them. Can you give just the court your high level assessment of what we're talking about potentially?
All right. Hopefully we're all on the same page. So let me see here. I don't think I have my camera on here, but so I went through essentially as far as modifications to the building themselves. We're talking about adding a man door at one of the interior walls of the building, and then probably a penetration on the exterior of the building, which I think those can be easily achieved. I don't think that it threatens the integrity of the building in any way. I think I've mentioned this, Ardent Mills. I think they're talking about making some foundation alterations potentially, and they're putting some equipment in the building. I think I don't see a problem with what they're doing fundamentally. The thing that I think the court, and it's just kind of part and parcel to how this goes, is there's going to be some building code requirements with regard to the structural changes that are going to be made, and probably equipment anchorage as well is probably going to be covered by that. And if we have to add any load to the roof, I think we should take a look at make sure that the roof has capacity to take that load. But other than that, I think that it's a pretty straightforward, and my comment is that industrial plants do these kind of modifications all the time, and it's good when they do it because that means that they're keeping their process up. So anyway, any questions?
Scott, anything you want to add?
And I think the other side of, kind of why we're doing this is to help increase our possibility of supporting customers in the Northwest with bulk capabilities and super sacks. And, for us, the more customers we have, the more likely we can expand that business, which is something that we've wanted to do since the beginning of, I think, back to 2005.
Great. So for next steps on this one, Court, would you like Jeff to put together a proposal? Because it's on the project management side, the procurement, kind of figuring out what this looks like.
So we're talking about whatever modifications is to the building that we're looking at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Jeff, can you put us together a proposal?
Well, I'll tell you what I was gonna do, if it's all right, because I don't know how you want to handle this. I was gonna write a proposal to Ardent Mills to actually design the penetrations that we're gonna be taking care of on it.
Okay.
And then I don't know if I need to write the county court a proposal to do any work at this point on it. And then my thinking was, I know, just so everybody understands, I would work for Ardent Mills because they're proposing to make these alterations. And then I would probably, as part of that, put together a memo that says, we did these alterations and it appears to comply with the, the provisions of the Oregon Structural Specialty Code. We don't see an issue with it, and just take care of it that way through Ardent Mills. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
That's fine.
Okay.
But I also think there were some other things that Nan wanted to raise.
Yeah, it's besides the project. So
Okay.
just a few of the things. I had him put a sign down there in the bottom. Ardent Mills would like to put a sign on the building. We just want to make sure you guys are all okay with that, because we do have a lot of truck drivers that get lost and drive right by us, not knowing that we're Ardent Mills. So I don't know if you guys are okay with that. It would probably go, we haven't decided exactly where it would go, on the over above the loading docks on that far end or wherever. I mean, we're just not sure yet what that looks like, but they're putting new signage out on all the Ardent Mills buildings. So
Yeah.
Advertisement's a good thing.
I think that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But not just for your truck drivers, for anyone driving by.
Correct.
Who doesn't
So
know
we're
what
in
that
that
boxy
building,
building is
right,
out there?
exactly. Yes, and I did have a few other things. I did send a list, but the windows in the building are, all the cold and stuff's coming out, cold air is coming through. It's been 17 years since the building's been there, so I don't know if somebody wants to put new windows in, coat them up, whatever. I think they do need to be replaced because the gases are leaking in them and stuff like that. The bathroom floors all have tile. It's all cracking out. The grout's coming out of it. Hard to clean. You add flour and water together, it cakes. It's really hard to get out of those grout lines. Don't know if you guys would be interested in replacing the floors. And in the lunchroom area, that whole area, those floors are pretty worn. So we are doing a project of updating some of the facilities. We have some money set aside to do so. So we're gonna, build or buy furniture, put lockers in, paint, whatever needs to be done, just to beautify things, I guess.
Mhm.
So I just come into you guys first to see if you guys wanted to replace the floors, or that should be our responsibility. So no decision.
I would say there's probably something in the lease, huh?
Yeah, I think I need to go back and review and refresh sort of what the terms of the lease are. So let's do that first. We'll double check on those provisions. I'm assuming though the windows are probably, usually it's an exterior and roof is the owner of the building. Is that something you would like Jeff to take a look at and assess?
Yes, let's do that now, because that is the county's responsibility.
Well, I think your lease will tell you exactly whose responsibility it is, I'm sure.
Okay, so how about this? How about I work with Nan and Jeff to figure out which things potentially are the counties and which things potentially are Ardent Mills. For anything that's the county, I will ask Jeff to maybe put together a proposal for us to look at, and then consider if we want to make upgrades to the windows and any other thing that's on Nan's list. Does that work for you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the man door out in the warehouse needs to be, it's all rusted out at the bottom and the concrete's cracking out through there, so water comes in underneath when we get it, so.
It's a 20-year-old building. It has
Yeah,
issues for
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like Jeff is jumping off, so I will connect with him. I actually have lunch scheduled with him tomorrow, so he and I can go over some of this stuff
Perfect.
and get it moving.
Yeah, and if anybody ever wants to come out and take a tour of the plant, I can walk you through the whole project, you know, where everything's gonna go once we get everything set in place, and you're more than welcome. So,
I would love to.
Leah, have you seen?
I think
Yeah,
I do. I have never been in it. so.
oh, yes, please do.
I took the tour
It's
already, but I have not
very
seen it
interesting.
since with the new plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Very interesting.
Okay, so it sounds like more to come on several of these projects, but exciting.
It
It's
is
exciting that you guys are
yeah.
looking at some,
It's been a long
new
time
stuff.
since we've increased volume.
yeah, that's
So,
wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
yeah,
Yep,
absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks. Okay, let's go on to 6.2, which is discussion and possible action on pilot agreement for Oregon Trail Solar Projects. And I see Matt is on from Avangrid. And in the background, hello. I thought you were on vacation. Okay, Delaney is, I think, has given you screen sharing. So I will have you take it away first, and then we can go into the nitty-gritty details.
Okay, can you guys hear us?
You can.
All right, excellent. I'm gonna just get my screen set up here. Looks like it's doing something.
It's a translation from PowerPoint to full screen sometimes doesn't
Okay.
do it.
I think we're
There we
there.
go.
So, I judge and fellow commissioners. My name is Matt Hutchinson. I'm here with Brian Walsh with Ardent team. Brian Walsh, well, I'm good. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We apologize for not being there in person. We fully intended to be there, but the highway was closed yesterday in the gorge for ice, so couldn't make it out. So hopefully you can oblige us today with joining over the phone.
Absolutely. We get it.
Okay, great. We'll just have a short presentation today on our pilot request for the Oregon Trail Solar Project. First, let's see if I can advance the slide. So basically a pretty simple agenda. We're trying to talk about kind of Avangrid's past history in the county, some other examples of tax incentives, and then the specific request for our Oregon Trail Solar Project and what it could bring to the county. So first, just a little bit about Avangrid. We're part of a larger company called Iberdrola, which is one of the largest energy companies in the world. But we have our renewables business is based here in Portland. So we've had quite a bit of experience in Oregon and the Northwest. And then specifically, we have long history working in the county. We were one of the companies that built the second wind project in the county, and have since then built 5 other wind projects, and are nearly complete with our Montague solar project, which when complete will be the Oregon's largest solar project. And so overall, we're operating close to 500 megawatts of renewable energy in the county, which is just a great opportunity for us in the county. We have 26 permanent employees that are mainly our wind techs that are assigned to maintain the wind projects. And I also want to put a note in here, like we also have one of our construction managers who's been helping building the wind projects in the past few years, and the Montague solar project did relocate to Arlington from Texas, just because of all the construction activities happening in the Northwest. So it's a great opportunity for even our own staff to relocate to the county. And then we have ongoing SIP agreements from our wind projects that have contributed over $31 million to the county over the years. And this is just kind of another map that shows our geographic presence. A lot of our business is focused on this Columbia Plateau area with our wind projects in Gilliam and Sherman County. And then here's some other examples of those projects that we showed on the last slide of other tax agreements that have been successful from attaining from counties. And you can see like there's kind of a wide range from red zones 3 to 5 year red zones, SIP agreements for larger wind projects, and then pilot agreements for smaller solar projects. And these have been in different counties on the Columbia Plateau. And then here's just a little bit about this particular project. This is the Oregon Trail Solar Project. So I think of this as like our third phase of our Montague complex. So we first built Montague Wind in 2019, off to the right, the east there. And then we are currently building the Montague Solar Project, which is in the middle. And then the third phase would be this smaller project, a 41 megawatt solar project that's adjoining the Montague project, Montague Solar. And the Oregon Trail Solar would share the existing substations and transmission lines that we built all the way back to BPA's Slat substation just east of Arlington. So it's an opportunity to use the existing infrastructure that's out there.
And the only reason like Oregon Trail is just 41 megawatts is just that's the remaining interconnection capacity at BPA Slat substation without a major infrastructure change and build out at Slat substation. This is the last remaining interconnection capacity in the general area. So Jones Canyon is fully subscribed, off of Rattlesnake, and then Slat Road, this is the last 41 megawatts there. So any other new interconnection or generation requests will trigger, a large BPA, build out and improvement at either substation.
Okay, so
what's the likelihood of that ever happening, Brian?
Well, I'm gonna rub my crystal ball here real quick, and now there are, if you can look in the BPA interconnection queue, which I do quite often, there are quite a few new interconnection requests at Slat substation, and also a request at Jones Canyon too as well. I think maybe something's more likely to happen at Slat than at Jones Canyon. Jones Canyon just has some operational limitations on that line, but yeah, I can send you Commissioner Shannon. I'll send you a list of like the interconnection queue at Slat substation, so you can get a flavor of what people have submitted for requests. But there's some large interconnection requests at Slat substation, and maybe if a project finds an offtake or whatever that can afford it, but it's probably going to be north of $100 million upgrade at BPA at Slat substation to accommodate it. So yeah, you need a pretty large project to be able to afford to do those type of upgrades that size cost.
Okay, so to dig into our specific requests about what the pilot program is and how it could fit for Oregon Trail. So the pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes program that seems to be the right tax incentive for Oregon Trail Solar because of its smaller size compared to other large infrastructure projects. Like for example, it's a better incentive than the red zone or a SIP agreement for us. The pilot program was renewed last year. And it had basically two big changes. It extended the time that it was available to use. Then it also created a new incentive scale. So it can range from $5,500 to $7,000 per megawatt. And it's up to the counties to decide how that's applied. And the term is capped at 20 years for the agreement. And then basically what it does is it fixes payments over the term of the pilot agreement at those negotiated rates for that period. So that gives certainty for both the project owner and the county of like how those tax payments will be coming over time. And then just, part of the reasoning for tax incentive is the economics of these projects is getting more and more challenging with new labor requirements and limited availability of labor. We're seeing the cost of getting construction workers is very much increasing. And so that combined with just general supply chain issues and inflation issues of making these the economics of solar challenging. So this is a kind of an important piece to bringing a project forward to construction.
Just again, economies of scale, Oregon Trail just doesn't have that advantage. And, we've talked about this before when we thought about bringing, Oregon Trail tax incentive forward with Montague Solar. It's just, those issues just with union labor particularly too, which is, which is now a requirement under House Bill 2021, it has just a larger effect on the economics of a smaller project.
And we provided a pilot agreement to the court maybe a couple of weeks ago, so I believe you have that. And basically what we're proposing is this at the bottom, the takeaway here is it's a 41 megawatt project at 5,500 is a little over $200,000 a year. So over the term that we're proposing, it's over $3.3 million. So the project going forward with the pilot also has economic benefits. So there are this increased tax revenue compared to farm use. There is some local spend by construction workers. The project will bring local jobs, and we're also proposing to add in a community donation as part of if the project moves forward. So we can talk a little bit about that later. So just in terms of increased tax revenues, so this is if you look at a 25-year term. So the first 15 years would be under the pilot, and then the remaining term would be under regular tax assessment. So you're looking at 5.7 million over the 25 years. And this tax payment would be distributed into the local taxing districts, which would feed into these items here that are listed, which is pretty familiar. And in general, the amount of tax incentive from a pilot is very similar to SIP agreements that were also granted. It's about a 30% tax benefit for the project. And then there are construction work does bring local spend. I realize that there was a letter from the court to Odo about questioning some of this. And the record keeping that we have is recorded on a 100-mile radius, and that's what this figure is showing here. But there is some amount of local spend that goes into buying supplies, rock and water, and per diem that's spent by construction workers
in the county.
Yeah, because a lot of these the solar construction requires a lot of labor, so a lot of people coming in and out of the county. And then the project move forward would hire one new full-time technician to service the project, plus part-time admin and manager positions. Basically, we're going to establish a solar technician team that will service the Montague solar project and the Oregon Trail solar project together. And we generally pay our technicians above county average wages. And there's also ongoing technicians that come from other companies that are associated with equipment to service warranty issues that occur usually over the first 5 to 10 years of a project life. So there's kind of a lot of techs going in and out. And then lastly, to respond to a letter that we received from Odo about temporary housing and agricultural land, we're proposing to provide a donation of a 500 megawatt or $500 per megawatt for the same term as the pilot agreement. And these would be donations to local groups, and we're currently targeting the Pioneer Development Corporation to address housing. So they have an ongoing program to build new rental units, which would be a great fit for worker housing. And then also a donation to the Gilliam County Soil Water Conservation District, earmarked towards agricultural improvement projects. And so we've spoken with both those groups. They seem very supportive of this concept. So it's another opportunity for a local economic benefit. And then just kind of a conclusion, this pilots are a tool for track development, and it's kind of a key for renewable projects, especially. It provides a consistent payment over time. It's, the cost of these projects is increasing, and tax incentives are very important. And then, like Brian said, there's the economies of scale that this project is on the smaller side if you look at the size of projects that people are proposing lately. So it's important to have the tax incentive. We're looking at starting this project in late 2024, but we kind of want to get certainty on our tax in the near term so we can really market this project aggressively. And kind of just the last kind of note is we think that when the tax payments from wind projects is probably declining over time since they're out there for 15 or 20 years. And the tax from a solar project could help boost or stabilize that decline from wind projects. So that's our pitch, and I think last I would just take questions. So I appreciate everyone's time.
Commissioners, you have questions?
Why is this proposal for 15 years instead of the 20? What was the reasoning behind that?
Sure, like around 15 years is like the break even point, or that when the depreciation equals the fixed payment. So around 15 years.
At the end of 15 years, like ordinary taxes are more advantageous.
Yeah, I had another question. I've lost it.
Less expensive. Does the assessor have anything to add to that?
I came in at tail end, so not really.
I will say that Avangrid did provide, as they indicated, the draft agreement. We sent it to Laura Westmeyer, who is our energy counsel. Right as soon as they sent it, actually, she sent us comments late last night, I understand, so, and had significant comments. So that is why it's not in your packets. So on that piece, I feel like we're not actually ready to take a motion until we see what her comments back to us were. One question I did have for the contributions to the community organizations. I know SWCD has been in contact with you. Herb's on, Chet's a board member. In terms of the housing one, I think the other one that we had possibly discussed was the Ports nonprofit, who is also doing housing. I wanted to see if Avangrid is open, if that, we have met with PCDC and they seem like they are very content within their current scope. And while the port is venturing into new projects. And so I wonder if Avangrid would be open to considering the Ports nonprofit instead. And the other piece related to that is, are those contributions typically memorialized in the pilot agreement, or would we be memorializing those in a separate agreement?
I think that, so in terms of the community donation, I think we would be open to working with the Port of Arlington if they had a program that's rarely available for us to use. And then in terms of memorializing agreements, I think my thought was, if this sounds, acceptable to everyone, is to move forward with like an MOU between the different parties to say, they would be documented there, and it would not be documented in the pilot agreement itself.
Got it.
So would that start at the completion of the project? I mean, housing 3 years down the road doesn't help.
Right.
I think he's saying we need housing yesterday.
Chicken and eggs, right?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Commissioner Shannon. So as soon as we, it's a budget, right? So this is baked into the budget if and when the project were to move forward. So yeah, it's chicken and the egg thing. So kind of need, tax incentive in order to get the power purchase agreement in order to make the community donation. So, but yeah, we could, as soon as we had the green light that we thought, that we knew the project was going forward with the PPA, ideally that would happen. It would happen, at least a year in advance before we were going to start construction. So we could talk about the timing on that and memorializing that in the MOU with whatever group. So, and really who we make the community development or like donation to and what organization. I'm like, that's why we wrote the letter to you in the county. I'm like, best where the community needs it. So, we're asking you to steer the hand for the donation wherever you see best. So yeah, so we're open. And it doesn't have to be those 3 organizations. Those are just, on our own research, and we talked about the port too as well. So, and I did get a call from Leah this morning, Commissioner Shannon, and I didn't have a chance to call her back yet, but I will.
I told her you probably would not be available. But, we've talked about my concerns about the local spend and what happened with that on the current project and, and you heard my spiel about keeping within whatever that looks like, tracking within county lines instead of a 100-mile radius. But in regards to that, can you be in a position you can twist your general contractors and whatnot to get them to spend locally rather than, an incentive for them to spend locally rather than.
Yeah, there's.
We're just
yeah.
watching them drive out of town every night and it's unbelievable. Just a string of cars that leave every night and, we got a list and I'm sure they bought a little bit here and there, but the reality of the local spend has been not good at all and hasn't continued to increase, even though housing became available after the repowers kind of got wrapped up. So, I really think it's a contractor general problem with your contractor, and we're not seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, some of the housing decisions that the workers make are made months in advance before, either they move into the state or locally. And, a lot of our workforce is driving from Portland and the greater Portland area to the jobs that they're commuting, 2 hours each way every day, which is kind of crazy. So it's and subsequently, that's why we lose some of our labor workforce when a job that comes up that requires union labor that's closer to home, like they'll leave the Montague solar site and go work in Portland if they can and shorten their commute. So it just naturally happens that way. So housing and supporting housing would be great. We after receiving the county's letter about local spend, and Matt and I really dug into what dollars are being spent within the county and what are being spent outside of the county within that 100-mile radius. And it really spurred a conversation that we've had with our procurement and our construction team about how we're going to change our contracts moving forward to encourage that local spend. So I want you to know that your letter did spurn actions for us to take about strengthening the language about preferential local spending first, and then also to track it better too as well in our construction contracts moving forward, so that we have more granular data on where the dollars are being spent. But the letter, I don't know, Commissioner Shannon, if you got to see our response and when we went back and asked our contractors at Montague Solar where they were spending money, and they listed out some of the companies that were within the county where they're spending money and providing that, because it might not always be as obvious. And also the budget, for Montague Solar may not have been as big as it was for Mortensen and for the repower at Shepherd's Flat too as well, which that was a much larger project too as well, and more dollars available to spend locally. So they're not, that's an apples and oranges comparison from an economic standpoint.
Just a question I wanted to check in, because I see that Herb is on. Can you just maybe speak very briefly? You've had conversations obviously with Avangrid. I assume that your board is on board if you are one of the recipients of the donation. I don't know people who turn it down free money, but I just want to double check that you guys would be willing partners if this were to go forward.
Yes, Judge Farrar, we discussed this opportunity at our last board meeting, and all the board members are in full support.
And I assume same with the port, Jed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions from the commissioners at this point? Okay, from the public, while we have folks, Chet will take it back and think about it.
Well, not as the assessor and as SWCD board member and adjoining landowner, the weed issues. I mean, there's still a lot of weed issues around the outsides of the current project that should have been managed better, in my opinion.
Did you guys catch that?
About weed control around the project?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I believe that we've contracted to manage the weeds better. There was, just a little bit of trouble running into union labor where our contractor was very, hesitant to hire anybody that wasn't union, and we couldn't find a union weed control person. And that was why there was a delay, because we thought the requirement to use 100% union labor, and they took it very seriously, and that we couldn't find a union weed control person. So it's something else that we're working on, making sure that there's clarity around that with the general provisions of House Bill 2021, and making sure that there's clarity with our contractors if the labor is not available, like union labor is not available, if they were able to use non-union labor to do some of those critical tasks and chores during construction.
During construction, but what is the plan going forward for weed control?
To contract with a local weed master or manage them like ourselves or a third party.
Thank you.
One other request, Matt, could you send Delaney the slides from your presentation so that we can include those with the packet information on the website in case anybody wants to go back and review those? Any other questions, comments at this point? In terms of next steps, like I said, we got Laura's comments back last night, so I have not even seen what she has suggested. So I think we can try to get it scheduled, put back on the court's agenda for the first meeting in January, and continue the discussion. And I think in the meanwhile, also start working on the memorandum of agreement for the community contributions. Les, did you want to weigh in? I saw you came online.
Judge Campbell, yeah, I was just curious, how soon will the Energy Council's comments be available to us interested ones, or will they be available?
Oh, from Laura, you mean? Are you saying from our Energy Council? Oh. So I think likely what we will do is, I have not seen how extensive they are, but I think we will probably incorporate those in, and likely we'll ask her to join us. Hopefully she can make it during the next meeting to kind of walk us through her suggestions. So that is my hope, is that she will be able to join us. But I have not seen her actual comments at this point. So
Judge Campbell, what you have received, will you be able to post that or make it available to us between now and the next meeting that you're looking at having her join you in?
yeah, I think we'll probably include it as part of the packet material once that's ready to go out. Assuming that it's not significant enough that it needs additional revisions back and forth, in which case it might not, it might be postponed until the second meeting in January, depending, understanding that we're like a couple of days away from Christmas, and we have staff that also would like to maybe spend some time with their families over the holidays. So, but my hope is to get it scheduled for the next January, for the first January meeting, and to have it wrapped up with the packet next week.
It's okay with the commission. I can email the draft that we sent to the county, to Les, if that would be helpful. I mean, I know it doesn't have the markups, but happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that we already attached to the packet. He's curious to see our legal counsel's comments back on it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? This is a to be continued, I think, to the next meeting. But thank you guys so much for your time.
So Judge Farrar, are you unable to, I mean, I know that the form and the comments of the pilot agreement, need more time to work through, but are you able to bring a decision forward today as far as to the level of the pilot?
Commissioners? do you have initial thoughts on?
And the reason I ask is just because Commissioner Wilkins and leaving council here after the new year, and that she's been familiar with the issue of the projects for a while, and so that's why I asked.
So she ought to speak first then, huh?
Yeah, and I'm gonna defer. I'm sorry, this is an ongoing thing, and I know that Commissioner Watkins is up to speed on a lot of what's happening, and I think she'll make a good decision.
Where are you at?
I'm probably okay with the 5,500 if the rest of these incentives look okay.
Yeah, I think I am open to it, assuming that the community contributions are sufficient to meet some of these other concerns that we have voiced.
And that they start immediately, not after the project's complete.
What do you mean by immediately, Commissioner Shannon?
Well, once we have all this agreed to, I guess.
Yeah, there's the budget part, right? So, like I said before, we can fund them as soon as possible when we have certainty the project is moving forward, and like I
We
said,
get
that
some
can-
timeline on it of some sort of when.
Yeah.
You would be comfortable with it, and I mean, I just have concerns about waiting until 2025 for anything off the project.
I totally understand, like the housing problem, like helping the housing situation needs to happen in advance of construction, not as it starts. So I totally get the timing.
It actually, I was gonna say, it actually helps with the local spend if we have houses for our workforce to stay in when they're here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it sounds like in general, I mean, Pat and I would still make up a majority in January, that there is general support for your request, with the caveat that we need to make sure that the MOU that we're talking about is critical to that being acceptable. Am I on board?
Yes.
Okay. Pat's nodding that that's what he's thinking too.
I need to speak up, huh? Yes.
We'll get busy working on the MOUs with both organizations, or with two organizations, but would appreciate your feedback after this meeting in the next week as far as whether it's the port or if it's Pioneer, or however best. But we asked the court to provide the direction on which way to pursue.
I think we just need to say today it's the port.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think there's a consensus among the
That's
court
what
right
we
now that the port is on the housing piece is the preferred venue, and then SWCD on the sort of ag mitigation piece.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what we needed.
Great. Okay, anything else on this piece for now? Okay, let's move on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Okay, 6.3, consider nomination of Gilliam County representative for CAPECO board. Sherry, do you want to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to include this today, just to make sure that we're aware that the CAPECO board is going to have a lot of changes because of the designation that they have for their board to be represented by elected officials as well as lay people. And myself, George Murdoch, Melissa Lindsay, they're losing it. It's like Norcor, they're losing their core electeds. So something to also to consider is the other reason why is it does not have to be a county court member. It's just an elected official. It could be a mayor or a council person or anyone like that too. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that we'll need to fill that slot, because when we get into January, they're going to be out of compliance because so many of us
They don't have board members.
Yeah, so many of us don't fit the criteria.
So we nominate.
Sabrina's nominating.
We nominate And then the board appoints, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It's not an automatic acceptance of your appointment, but
So maybe the place to start is there interest among any of the commissioners? Leah, is that a maybe?
I'm gonna do the
I'll
North
do
Fork
it.
Forward, so you're gonna
Yeah.
have to do CAPECO.
Okay, so Commissioner-elect Watkins has an interest. I do not have one, so I will not challenge you for that.
You don't wanna arm wrestle?
No, thank you.
I did indicate to the board that I thought that Leah would be interested and that she would be a very good fit for that.
Perfect. So Sherry, do you want to move to nominate her then?
Oh, I will nominate Leah Watkins to the CAPECO board.
Second her nomination.
It's been moved and seconded that we nominate Commissioner-elect Leah Watkins to the CAPECO board. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Well, they still have to apparently vote on me. I might get voted down.
I'll send you the information of who
Okay.
to contact and let them know that you're interested.
Okay, what several of you have been eagerly waiting for, we'll move into 6.4, consider award of fiscal year 2022-2023 fall capital investment and North Special Projects grants. Delaney, do you want to walk us through sort of what the committee's recommendations? Commissioners, you, I think, received all of the applications, hopefully, so you could see. So is it helpful for Delaney to just talk through the ones that are not, that have conditions or are recommended not to fund, or do you want to go through all of the projects?
Well, let's start with the ones with the stipulations. and all.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in is.
Okay, go ahead, Delaney.
So we had, if we look at our sheet, we had 5 applications for the remaining funds in the capital investment. We recommend Arlington School Districts. They are requesting $244,000 to purchase teacher housing, and we're just requesting that we get proof of it being a pending escrow transaction before those funds are released. Because I'm assuming they'll need us to probably put those funds up prior to the purchase, so it won't be able to be like fully reimbursable as most of our capital investment grants are.
So normally they have, looking at this, been way over that for approved grants.
Yeah, and this is an additional grant, so they get their request for making improvements to the school. And
But
so,
the 400, the approved to, under your capital investment grant for fall, you're showing in 21, there was 410 and 422. Was that for a fall capital grant?
no, that was for their spring,
Spring
their
grant.
grant that was awarded to
We're
them
giving
in
them
our
money
spring
already.
batch was that $400,000. If you look
So
up in the
this is-
green box up
This is
top.
kind of in addition to that.
Yes.
Yeah, so they typically come to us in spring. So the both 2021 and 2022 were facilities improvements for the district. This is the
I just wonder
cherry on the top.
what does our funding look like in regards to these programs? If they have a big ask in the spring.
So the spring will recharge because
Yeah.
it will come in with a new budget
So these funds are available in these.
in the current fiscal year.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so there was,
This was
after
what
we
was left.
funded the spring cycle, which is the operational capital investment, there was about 1.1 million left
Okay.
in that fund. And so this is that remaining, they're making a request of that remaining fund balance.
Okay.
And then we have the other one that we had discussion over was the South Gilliam Cemetery District. Their request was for $21,287 to make various building improvements as well as start a job training program. The committee recommended that this project not be funded due to it not fitting the guidelines of the capital investments.
It was like software too.
Yeah, there's some things that are a better fit for an operational grant. And when you take out those things that fit in the operational grant, you're left with less than $20,000, which is the threshold for the capital investment grant. So we're asking that they reassess, and come back in the spring grant cycle under the correct grant requests. So that wraps up the capital investment grants. Are there questions on any of the other grants for that one? We had requests from the city of Condon for $196,300 to install a remote meter reading and leak detection system to improve their water stuff. We had Condon Early Learning Center for $37,027 to make improvements to their infant toddler play area. And then we had the Port of Arlington's request for $487,500 for the abatement and assessment of the Condon grade school.
No,
Yeah, no.
good to see that you've got a tool to get some of this stuff done before.
Absolutely. Do you want to walk through special projects, the north?
Yes.
We had extra funds, so normally we would not open up special projects in the fall because usually they're expended in the spring. We had more money in the north end, so we opened that up for special projects again in the north end.
So we had a request from the city of Arlington for $7,855 to make improvements to the basketball courts at the park. We have another request from North Gilliam County Health District for $2,265 to support the installation of outdoor security cameras. And then we have the Oregon Frontier Chamber of Commerce request of $20,000 for various projects, updating signage, community support for their events such as their concerts and things, and then funding to do a pop-up market. If you looked in their application, it includes buildings and things like that, and the committee recommended fully funding this request upon receiving a letter of support from the city of Arlington, as they are looking at putting their pop-up market on city of Arlington property, and we would just want to make sure that the city is supportive of them putting it there, or if they need to go to another landowner, receiving a letter of support from whoever the pop-up market will be housed. Because
these are, from what I understand, they're temporary structures that are rented. And basically artists are able to come into them. So artists who would normally not be able to have a front can move in for, say, a month at a time, sell their wares, and it kind of becomes a little hub place for tourists to stop and buy things, and for the maker, a more cost-effective way to actually sell than having to have retail space.
And I talked with Kaylin about that, and she's been in discussions with the city of Arlington about this. They discussed it when they did their Main Street tour and things like that. So the city is aware of this project. So I don't know for sure if the letter of support will be an issue, but the city is aware of it at this time. So.
That North Gilliam County Health District, is that for the building, for the clinic, the security camera?
I believe there's 8 security cameras total. I believe it's for their main building. It could also be for their ambulance building as well. I just didn't.
Any questions, commissioners? I don't have any.
No.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to award the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital investment and North Special Projects grants as presented, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we award the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital investment and North Special Projects grants as presented, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 6.5, which was an added discussion item from Commissioner Shannon on Measure 114.
So I do not know the legal term, so I had to get on the internet.
The amicus brief.
Yeah. So, were you on that call yesterday? Basically, EOAC has hired an attorney to for EOCA to file a brief for the purpose of cost of implementing 114 at the county level and the effects on it to local public safety because of moving internal departments around in sheriff departments to get everything to happen. There's training involved, field training involved and stuff with 114, which will take off, you know, in Gilliam County's situation, Tori would have to do the training and then he would be doing public safety because he's training for 114. And what I got from the sheriff is it is probably not a big financial impact to Gilliam County, but there will be some public safety impact, no doubt, at least in availability. I told the members of the EOCA board that I didn't think they're looking for 3 counties to kind of put together a financial impact to support the brief. I don't really think Gilliam County was a great example for what they need, but I did want to talk to the court about it and get you in the loop of what's going on, see if you're in support of trying to get that to go away someday. But that's where that's at with EOCA, and I do think Deschutes County, there's some conflicts in there because there was a judge involved that's in Harney County, which they didn't think the optics of using Harney County as an example didn't look good, and it was.
Seems the larger counties would be better case studies on cost.
Yeah.
So Umatilla, Deschutes, maybe.
Deschutes sound like they could do it, but I just wanted to make sure that I got it out to the court so you understood what was. Any questions for me on that one?
Yeah, I don't think so. So basically, EOCA is just looking for potential counties
They're
to
looking
use as
for
examples.
3 counties to send examples into legal to help support the brief that might sway judge. But typically, I guess these go to the Supreme Court, so.
Yeah, I was curious, is the brief, because there's 2 sets of, for those who are, hopefully everyone knows the shorthand for 114, but this is the new gun measure that was just passed in November, which requires folks to issue permits or receive permits, but those permits are being received through local sheriff's office.
Like
without a lot of input from the counties
well,
on
and
how
there's like
that process
$65
looks.
per permit that is funded. But OSP gets $40 and 65. And the counties get 25. So. And they've got to do the work.
I know, and that's, according to Chris, you will do it, and then you have to go to the state police and wait for them to okay it, for it to come back to you, and because
Yeah, I
she
don't know.
sounded like the process was not gonna be so much fun. She
And
did
our
not want
sheriff's
to do
department
it.
is trying to figure out how to make the process work as smoothly as possible for the Gilliam County residents. Give them that.
Mhm.
So.
Okay, so is there any follow-up?
I
For
think
now.
as long as you're good with me letting them know that, we're in support of it, but we don't think we're a good example.
Yeah, I mean, it
I don't
definitely.
think we need to sign anything at this point or anything like that.
I'm in support of the Sheriff's Association, and I know what their stand is.
Yeah.
I think in general, anytime you expect to roll out something within a month of the vote without giving the people who are supposed to implement it any
Ridiculous.
opportunity to figure out how they're going to implement it is problematic. from the
Bad
get-go.
legislation.
Could start Sheriff too, because I'm surprised how far along he is with the process and thinking his way through this, so that if it does roll out, they're kind of in position to do something.
It's gonna be ready if it has to happen, which is a good move.
Les, did you want to weigh in?
Judge Campbell, commissioners, I just wanted to say I appreciate Commissioner Shannon bringing back to the court what he's brought to the court today before he actually took action himself at the EOCA meeting in this matter. He did participate in the vote, which supported what the group wants to do in terms of filing a brief with those that are already in place. But I do think it's really important. The point I guess I'm trying to make here sort of convolutedly is that it's really important for the representative from Gilliam County to the Eastern Oregon Counties Association that before there's action taken on behalf of the court, that representative brings that matter back to the court for the court to decide upon. And I was appreciative of seeing Pat more or less doing that today. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Any other questions, comments on that piece? Public otherwise? Okay, let's move into 7.0, which is announcements and next meeting. Next meeting will be on January 4th, 2023. Cannot believe that. In Condon. Wanted to also note that we are currently in the process of planning a public swearing in for our returning and new elected officials, which will be held on actually the day before that, which is Tuesday, January 3rd. The swearing in will be at 10:30 in the courtroom upstairs. And then we will have an open house directly following for folks who want to stop by, meet. We have some new faces. We have a new DA coming in. If you're interested in meeting her, I think she will be there, as well as meeting or having conversation with our fantastic staff who can talk to you about some of the things that they are up to and going to be working on for the new year. So please mark your calendars for that and we'll get out official public notices on that. And Sherry, your final update.
My final update. I attended the NORCOR meeting last Thursday where mostly it was a goodbye to each other because 3 of the board members are going off. There was some crying. There was some crying.
Get ready, there may be some today.
No. I said no. I remember telling her specifically no. But anyway, Molly Rogers and Brad Lowry went over what we'd accomplished in the last 40 years, and I'm gonna cry. It was a lot.
Pat, you want to take it?
Yeah, I also attended that meeting and I was impressed with what they've accomplished and looking forward to participating in that board moving forward. I really like one of the comments that they made about compassion incarceration, which I can really relate to. So yeah, it was kind of an emotional board meeting. You have anything else you want to add?
I don't. Thank you.
I also attended the MCAD full board meeting and I've been kind of involved recently with the process of trying to move into MCAD. I attended the City Arlington council meeting the other day and did visit with them about the transition into MCAD and we got support from them to move forward with that from their perspective. We are working on finalizing our bids to repave Cedar Springs Lane, and then I'm going to submit an email that is just going to happen and see what kind of response we get back. And Dewey's got some costs he's got to get from Curriad, and we'll move forward with that. That's going to be in place for waste management budgeting by the 15th of January. And we had 6 positions for our open crusher, 6 applications for our open crusher position. We're going to do interviews the 2nd week of January for that. Yesterday I attended the Lower John Day work group board meeting. The first time I've been on that. got up to speed with what's going on with them. Cliff Bench office sent out looking for priorities, goals, and anything within the county for the upcoming year. So if we have anything, you know of anything, we need to probably let Sage know what's going on with that. And if you got anything for that too, Jed, that we can kick out there for them to kind of work. One thing I was wondering is, can we put some more pressure on the broadband mapping through there too? Because that's gonna have to be handled at the federal level with the issues that are there. It was interesting when I was on the MCED meeting, they didn't really identify satellite as an issue in their
I have an
discussion.
update on that. Yeah. One, just wanted to let you know that I have a meeting scheduled with Sage on January 5th. I think he was trying to do a round, so I'm not sure on his thing whether he is going to be in person, but he may be. So that's on the 5th. On the broadband stuff, Senator Wyden's office had the FCC and NTIA. I don't know what that stands for. National Telecom Information Association, maybe, or administration, about the mapping. Our understanding is for the broadband, or for the infrastructure dollars, not the ARPA dollars, but the next wave that's coming from the feds, that NTIA is defining access as if your home is only accessed by satellite, it is not.
So we're getting
accessed.
through that hurdle.
Correct.
That's good.
There is, though, I will still note, significant problems with the addresses. And part of the way that they're going to do the funding distribution to the state of Oregon is looking at how many unserved homes there are in given geographical areas. And so it would be very beneficial, especially if you live out of town, which there's several of you sitting, most of you actually sitting in the room live out of town, to go to fcc.gov, type in your address, it'll pop up like a Google map looking thing. And just make sure that like it has an outline of your house, make sure that the address is right with the house. And I know Catherine was saying like in her neighborhood, like the highways are all misnamed. And I think in Delaney's, there were outbuildings near their house that have addresses, but not their house. So just please type in your address. It takes like 5 minutes. If there's a problem with your address, you can go right there on the website and challenge it right there. And basically just type in, hey, I live here and this is the wrong address. But all of that will help when all of these millions of dollars start coming out from the feds. It will position the county to go say, all of your houses, all you rural people, all of your houses are unserved right now. But if the maps are wrong, then we'll be kicked out basically of the funding pool. So if everyone could just take a few minutes, anyone listening in on the Zoom, it's fcc.gov, type in your address, double check that it looks correct. If you know your neighbor's addresses, double check that theirs look correct.
Is there any other way we're getting that out, like the paper to the residents, other than just the
so we
format?
I think we had talked about sending something out through our e-newsletter, and we can also maybe send something to Steve and do that as well.
So I got a question.
Go ahead.
Is that a project that Jolie could work on if she had in her spare time? Because we have our rural addressing spreadsheets with all of the addresses that she could go through and make sure that everything matches up.
Absolutely.
That would be great, yeah.
And then, all of them correct or
That would be,
changes.
because we had talked about having our fiber fellow do that, but the problem is because he's not local, he's not going to know if something doesn't look right, which Jolie, I think, would have a better sense of if something.
Updated, I know Chris and Jamie just went through.
Great,
Well,
we will set her loose on
Then you
that.
need to file not a complaint, but a
Challenge.
challenge.
And we do have the opportunity as the county to do a blanket challenge, but if we're just finding pockets here and there, we have to jump through a lot of hoops to actually submit ours. So it's probably more efficient to just do one at a time kind of thing, as long as it's not like half of the addresses or something. So having maybe Jolie check first, and then if she's finding that there's significant discrepancies then Delaney and I can work on how to do a blanket challenge. But otherwise, I think we'll just try to pick it. But in the meantime, folks, it's much, I mean, Jolie will do that, but go check yours as well, just to make sure. It takes 5 minutes. It's simple and very straightforward to challenge it. So anyway, go ahead.
But that's just rural.
Within the cities, there could be just some discrepancies, but looking at the maps, most of our incorporated cities, other than Lone Rock, have service or could have service. So I think most of the discrepancies are going to come from our rural addresses where there are barns being tagged as home addresses and random outbuildings that nobody's lived in for 100 years that had a 911 address at some point and are being tagged as being served. So go ahead, Pat. What else?
Well, the only other things I have is a reminder to get a work session scheduled for housing in the near future. And that, what are we doing when we have public comment as we did today, as far as addressing that public comment at the court level? We listen to it, then we don't respond, and what are we gonna do to?
So in general,
I mean, I think we had some good comments today about,
I think in general, it depends on the court's interest in that particular comment. So sometimes if it's like we have multiple ones, like we did with public health today, and there's a commissioner who says, you know what, I'm going to have a meeting and I'm going to take it up anyway, then that's how it gets addressed. Sometimes people are just commenting on the record for things that we're already going to take up and they just want it to sort of be known on the record. In general, if somebody's submitting like a written comment, we always try, especially if they get it to us ahead of time, always try to include it as part of the packet so people can go back and read and comment on it and maybe piggyback off it during our meetings. But I think it just kind of depends on the nature of the comment and the request. If it's just a general, I want to give my feedback, we usually just acknowledge that, thank you for your feedback. But if it's something that may require action and there's a commissioner that says, I will take that on, then that's usually how we've done it rather than a formal process. But we can always change if we have a new commissioner coming in. If there's a way that you guys want to do it differently, let us know.
I think maybe there's some follow-up with local health. We need to follow up, make sure
Yeah,
that
and
that
that's
the
what-
county has a process in place, which is going to be under her umbrella.
So does the website for the county, does it have a link to the public health site? Yes.
Anything else? I will keep mine brief. The one thing that I wanted to flag for you two is that I am anticipating during the first meeting in January, I'm going to come and possibly ask for a potential investment in the second stories project that I talked about earlier. So just to recap, there is the money available from Oregon Main Street for revitalization of second stories in historical district. And so I've been talking with Catherine, the city of Condon, about if the county and city could partner and put funds to help support business owners who want to turn their second stories into housing. And which would also stabilize, frankly, a lot of those businesses who are sort of living on a prayer sometimes. So we're talking about that. I think the initial grant sort of pre-application is due like 2 days after our next meeting. So I kind of wanted to just prime you two to be thinking about that. I will have time to sort of refine what the program would look like because I think the final application is not due till March. But I wanted to at least have, hopefully during our meeting, a sign off of, yes, we're willing to make an investment. We're not sure the total amount at this point, and we're working out the details, but that will allow the chamber potentially to go forward and go after the state dollars, basically, to bring in But I wanted to flag that for you, that we are trying to move that forward, and the grant deadlines are sooner than I had anticipated. So I may need at least a preliminary answer in early January about whether you're on board with that concept. And then we'll have to work out in budgeting the actual money for it. I think, is there anything else, Delaney, that was super pressing?
I don't think so. Oh, we are recruiting, now that I think about it. We have some committees that are open. We are actively recruiting members for our Citizens
could I-
Advisory Council.
Could I get a list of what the openings are?
Yep, it's on the website right now. The posting is on there. So we have the Citizens Advisory Council for the waste management site. We have our library board has some open positions, the Cultural Trust, and there's one more that I'm forgetting that I can't remember off the top of my head. And then we have we'll start advertising for
Is
most
our
likely.
budget committee full?
No, our budget committee, that's the other one, Pat. We have an opening on our budget committee. And so we're hoping to have letters of interest from individuals by next Wednesday, so they can be included in the January 4th court meeting. So if you know of anyone who'd be interested in serving on those, please have them submit a letter.
The Citizens Advisory Board is hurting for members pretty bad right now, and so I think that's a big
Like
priority. If
really?
anybody's interested in joining that
Like
board,
it's non-functional at this point. in
yes.
time.
And it is a requirement
Yes.
to have that board, so if anyone is interested.
And if there are any recently retired commissioners, for instance, that may have some time and would like to raise their hands, we would welcome.
I don't think she liked that board that well.
Wasn't that crazy about that board?
The last thing, which I
Was not my
think,
favorite.
the last thing, which I think is probably the most important, is that this is Sherry's last meeting.
Hurrah.
Stop it. Oh, I'm gonna get choked up. I just want to thank you for your partnership. This has been for me, a very rewarding time in my life, but also a very challenging one. And I wrote a nice thing in your card, but I want to say it publicly is, I think when we started, there were a lot of people that questioned whether at the time a group of women could run this county. And I don't think they question whether women should be at the table anymore. I hope. And as the mother of now a 2-year-old, I was proud to be part of an all-woman court, but I'm very grateful as well, because that paves the way for my daughter and all of the young women who come after us to be in positions where they can make a difference. And I want you to know that we've done a lot of great things, lots of hard things and hard discussions. But I think the legacy that you're leaving is that no one questions now whether women should be in places where decisions are being made. And that is your legacy to me. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with you these 4 years. And okay, I was not planning on crying, but I just felt like I needed to put that on the record. And so everyone is here basically to thank you for your service.
Which I told somebody not to do.
Well, she is insubordinate, but you're not in a position to do anything about it now. So I just.
Actually, you are till the 31st.
Yeah, I still could. Take those pants back.
And I believe formally, by the way, we're adjourned as if people don't want to see us crying here on the Zoom. Delaney, do we have? We thought about giving you a plaque, but we thought maybe not so much. So we have given you everything that you need to fully enjoy.
Oh, is there Cheetos in here?
Retirement.
There's no Cheetos. I'm gonna try to pull this out, tearing things up, because you know I save bags. And they come in handy because my mother-in-law came over and borrowed a bag the other day, so. Well, it's a really nice and cozy blanket that my husband, who has a cold and is in his recliner, wrapped up in a blanket right now, is going to really appreciate. Thank you. And there's the Cheetos. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
I'm not a day drinker, so we won't open it now. But
So
yes, it
public,
is.
I think we are going to formally adjourn, but we are celebrating Commissioner Wilkins. So if you get an opportunity, please do think for these are
Thank you.
harder jobs than they look on this side of the table. I see Les, maybe, Les, did you want to say something?
Pineapple punch. Thank you, transportation
I'd like
lady.
to say thank you.
Yes, it's fine.
Hold on one second, Les.
I just wanted to, oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. Commissioner Wilkins, I just wanted to say that I think probably the one person that would be the most proud of your effort over the last 4 years would be the former county commissioner that was your father, Commissioner Brooks. And I think you've served exemplary quite well in your position, and he would be the one that would be the most proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Les.
Okay, let's cut the feed.